Hey friends, Rick from BCW Supplies back again with part 8 of getting into Flesh and Blood. In today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about building decks or deck selection and resources that you might find helpful. Before we get started, I do want to make a special announcement about the Road to Nationals. I am planning on playing in Road to Nationals and have one of the decks that I'm considering here for us to talk about in today's video. If you've never played Flesh and Blood, I do recommend checking out the Legend Story Studios pre-constructed Blitz decks. They're a perfect way to get in a few games at a faster pace, smaller deck count. It's perfect for new players to play with their friends or to show somebody how to play the game. If you've already played Blitz or if you've already played Flesh and Blood and you're ready to go to the classic constructed level, then I have a few tips for you. The first one is trying to find out about the meta or decks that other people are playing. As this game is relatively new and the organized play is just really kicking off, at least here in North America for it, there's limited resources available, but I found several that I think are worth mentioning. The first one is going to be the fabulous website FabDB. FabDB is a place that has a bunch of different deck lists from casual to competitive, even janky and memey decks can be posted there by users. Some people go the extra distance and put in sideboard cards and they talk about what they side in and out, and it's a great way to communicate with other people. The more information you put in, the more likely somebody is to leave a comment or ask a question. I highly recommend checking out fabdb.com. Let's not overlook the parent website of fabtcg.com. They have deck lists on there as well. They range from the Blitz, sealed, and constructed. They have a great listing of the decks, what place it took, and you can click on it and see the full deck list as well. It doesn't provide any additional information that you could find on FabDB if the author put the information in, but it is a great resource to kind of compare what you're building or wanting to know what's kind of standard or what won if you're trying to build a deck to play against it. Another perfect website is Reddit. There is a subreddit thread for Flesh and Blood TCG or Fab TCG, and there are many helpful people there. I believe there's over 2,000 people in that Reddit forum, and I've seen a lot of good questions. I've seen a lot of good answers. It's a great resource, so I would definitely check out the Reddit or subreddit for the Flesh and Blood TCG. We also have, as you're watching, YouTube as an option. There are many different ways to search for Flesh and Blood deck techs, deck profiles, gameplays. There's many different content creators out there that do a phenomenal job. I don't want to name any of them specifically, only because I don't want to say, oh, these are the best, but there are several that I found that I personally like that give great in-depth discussion about card selection, sideboarding, and reasons why they're choosing certain cards over other cards. So hats off to the content creators for Flesh and Blood. You guys are providing wonderful, wonderful information on YouTube. Now, before we start talking about actual building of a deck, I would like to tell you some of the supplies that you should have with you when you go play in person. I strongly recommend having enough dice for you and your opponent, but having enough dice to keep track of your counters, your resources, anything that you need a dice for, perfect here. I also like to carry around some of these tokens. They're just glass beads you can get at a craft store. They're absolutely perfect if I need to put a counter on something or a marker on something. I use these normally for leftover energy, so it's very clear. I don't have to worry about my opponent not being able to see the pips. They can see how many resources I have based off the pitch left over by looking at these, so it's awesome. A notebook with a pen. Now, you can't take notes about what your opponent's pitching. You can't take notes about where cards are in the graveyard, but it's a great way to keep life totals. Or there's a bunch of apps on the phone for a life pad or life tracker, some that are themed specifically for Flesh and Blood. Check with your service provider to see what options are available on Android and Windows and Apple iOS. So those are some of the essentials. The last essential, you're gonna need a deck box and some sleeves. I strongly recommend checking out the BCW Elite 2 combo packs. You get a deck box big enough to hold the 81 double sleeve cards for Classic Constructed. You get a divider in here. You also get inner sleeves and 100 regular Elite 2 sleeves. Absolutely some of my favorite sleeves. This is a great little price value pack as well, and it comes in a rainbow of colors. Now, a playmat is also optional, but I strongly recommend it, especially when you're playing in larger events at larger conventions. Having something where your cards aren't touching a rough surface or a surface that somebody may have spilled something on is always a good idea to have your own playmat. All of that said, some dice, some markers, a way to keep life, a deck box, sleeves, and a playmat, and you're ready to go play some Flesh and Blood. So for the next part of the video, I want to talk about one of the heroes that I'm playing and kind of go through the deck build that I have currently for the Classic Constructed Road to Nationals. And in this, I will be playing Bravo, the Showstopper. He is the Guardian from Welcome to Wraith, and I absolutely fell in love with him. His ability for Dominate, his crushing attacks, which is his signature attacks, absolutely phenomenal for punching through some damage. And he plays a nice mid-range or control game as well, with some great defense reactions that are Guardian specific, as well as access to the generics like everybody. And he really wants to play a slower paced, one big hit, maybe two, and defend, and then crack you back. So it's a great way to learn the game. It's a great way to kind of learn to stick to a game plan. It's a great character to pick up, in my opinion. Really super excited about playing him in Classic Constructed. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the deck, and we'll finish this video up with just my thoughts on it. And please feel free to leave comments if you have any suggestions on how to improve this deck, as I am planning on taking it to the Road to Nationals on August 7th at Game Time in Indianapolis, Indiana. If you're there, hope to see you there. Let's take a look at Bravo Showstopper. Okay, so here we have Bravo Showstopper, the Guardian hero, 40 hit points, 4 intellect, so 4 cards in hand, and the Seismic Surge tokens, those will come into play based on one of the equipments that we have. It's just a way to kind of fuel some of his bigger attacks. For the weapon, I'm choosing to run Anthos. It's kind of the standard weapon choice for him. It's just a great way to apply some constant pressure. The Crater Fist is also another nice chunky defender. Maybe we activate the ability after it's taken blocked once, but it gives an attack with Crush +2 this turn, but it costs 3, and a lot of our attacks already are costing us 6, 7. If we dominate it, it's costing +2 more using Bravo's ability. So it doesn't always get used, but it's really nice to be able to absorb damage with the Crater Fist. The Mage Master Boots, now this is something I saw somebody on FabDB playing, and it really caught my interest. I really like the fact that it gives me the ability to have go again on the next non-attack action card. There's not a lot of non-attack action cards in the deck, but the ones that specifically that this is here for, we'll get to in a little bit, called Showtime. And being able to go again after that, even if it's a small attack, is sometimes just a way to get that into play and still apply a little pressure. The most important card, in my opinion, is Tectonic Plating. This is how you make Seismic Surge tokens. Once per turn action, you can spend 1 resource, create a Seismic Surge token, and go again. It also will block for 2 and is battle worn, so it's really a great piece of equipment. I highly recommend having it for Bravo. And then we have the Arcanite Skull Cap. It's just a nice chunky blocker. And then also the Arcane Barrier 3 when you're at less life is great. For certain matchups, I have 2 pieces of Null Rune. I've got the Null Rune gloves and the Null Rune boots. These are here for Kano. They're here for Rune Blade, and they're also in there for Chain. Sometimes you need more than Arcane 1, so a lot of times I will bring in one of these and not rely on the Arcanite Skull Cap. Normally it's 1 damage, sometimes it's 2, You just have to try and test it out, see what you like. So that's the equipment, that's the hero. And now on to the reds, the premium cards for Bravo. The number one is Crippling Crush. This is a 7 cost, 11 damage attack, defense for 3. It's a Bravo specialization. Crippling Crush deals 4 or more damage to a hero. They discard 2 cards at random. So this is a nice way because you're really forcing them to block, and to block 11, really, and not take the crush effect, they're really having to throw 3 blocks at it, and still take 3 damage. So they're really getting cards out of their hand in an efficient way. Spinal Crush is the next major card that you're attacking with. This is another one of his big crush effects. This one costs 5, it deals 9. Its crush effect, if it deals 4 or more damage, the opponent action cards, activated abilities, and attacks they control lose and cannot gain go again. This is great against Chain. This is phenomenal against Katsu. Bolton, if it's the Raiden build or the Saber build. Any deck that really wants to abuse go again and go wide, Spinal Crush is just a must land spell. Blessing of Deliverance. Now we're into one of the most wonderful auras. This is a way to have a little bit of life gain. You get to draw a card. It has go again, as long as you pitched a card that costs 3 or greater, which is most of the deck. You get to draw a card, so it replenishes itself, and then it pops to gain you normally 2, maybe 3 life on your next turn. So Pummel, phenomenal card. I have a love-hate relationship with it because it does cost 2. It is a way to force through an extra 4 damage on the red Pummel. It only blocks for 2, it costs 2, and like I said, a lot of our attacks cost a lot. So normally you're having to decide between Pummel and giving it Dominate from Bravo's ability. But with Pummel, if it hits, they have to discard a card. So even if they block out a big attack like a Spinal Crush, and they block for 9 and you're able to get 4 through, not only do they lose go again, but they also have to discard a card. And blocking 9 typically means it costs them 3 cards. You're costing them the 4th card in their hand with a well-timed Pummel. Staunch Response is a 2 of. This is a Guardian specific defense reaction. It's great, it costs 2. You can spend 4 more to give it +3, and it defends for 7 or 10. So this is great against Dorinthia. This is great against any of the other brutes or the mirror match of the Bravo Guardian. This is a phenomenal card to kind of stop those really big, mean, hurtful attacks that make you life go down quickly. Sing Blow is a phenomenal way to filter cards through your hand. It also defends for 4 and it costs 0. This is a great defense, generic defense reaction. Highly recommend running this card. It's almost a must include in most decks. If you get stuck with a clunky hand, like here, if I ended up with this plus 2 reds in my hand, my next turn is not going to do anything, so I can sink one of the cards, put it on the bottom, and draw a card off the top, and hopefully dig myself out of a bad situation. For the yellows, it's really short, it's really sweet. We run 3 disables because this is our version of Command and Conquer. It costs 5, deals 8, and then the crushes. If it deals 4 or more, then you put the card from their arsenal on the bottom of their deck. It's a nice disruptive way if they're sitting on something, setting up for a big turn, just to try and get through. Plus, with the Seismic Surge token, this costs 4, so you pitch 2, you can dominate it and get through and still have some juice left over. So, and then I'm playing 2 Remembrance. I see most decks running 1. I really think with the Katsu control decks, the chain decks where you're having to go long, any of those long grinding matchups, the ability to put 3 cards back into my deck and shuffle is super important. It costs 0, it pitches for 2. It's just a really great card. So there's the red, there's the yellows, and now we're on to the blues. Now the blues are the predominant cards in Bravo. Bravo loves his blue cards. He loves the 3 pitch, and let's just take a quick look at these. So I'm running 3 Debilitate. This is another crush card that makes their first attack -2 attack power. Normally that's gonna, for the go wide strategies, it's gonna blank their first attack. It's less that I have to defend against. It's just really an overall great card. Disable is one of the cards that I absolutely love. Again, we talked about it in yellow. We're also playing the blue version. It costs 5, attacks for 7, defends for 3. Cranial Crush is a phenomenal card. I normally am not casting this. It's phenomenal because of another card in here, because it's an attack 8, and there's a card that we're going to talk about here in a second that gets go again and +7 attack if you can reveal 13 or more damage, and this is a real big chunk to it. It's also good because it's able to kind of punch through the end when you're just needing a few more life points to go away from your opponent to win. It costs 6, you get it down to 5 with a seismic surge. You need to be able to pitch 2 blues and you can get it through. But yeah, it's crush ability. If it deals 4 or more damage to the hero, they can't draw cards during their next action phase. Skip that one for a second. Next we have Chokeslam. Chokeslam is a great card. I've debated on running the red version of Chokeslam as well, just because its ability is really good. Chokeslam deals 4 or more damage to a hero. Attack action cards they control can't gain attack during their next action phase. So certain cards that combo, like Katsu's cards or Chain's cards or Bravo's cards, you can't give the attack action cards additional attack. This does not work against Dorenthia. She is typically swinging her weapon. She's pumping and buffing her weapon. So this specifically says attack action cards. So not super strong against her, but it is a great pitch for 3, costs 4, deals 6. Next we have Crush the Weak. Crush the Weak is another crush effect. Blue, pitch 3, defend 3, deals 5. If it deals 4 or more, your opponent cannot play attack action cards with 3 or less base damage during their next turn. Really hard to get this one to do it, but if you can with a Pummel, this is kind of backbreaking against some of the heroes out there, like Katsu, who wants to start off with small attacks. Same thing with Bolton. This is a great card against them. Kind of bad against cards that have, like in the mirror match, this is definitely something I wouldn't be looking to slam. The last attack action card in blue that I want to talk about is Rouse the Ancients. This is out of Monarch. It is a 3-cost, pitch 3, defense for 2, and 0 attack, and that sounds horrible. But as an additional cost to playing Rouse the Ancients, you may reveal any number of attack action cards from your hand with 13 or more total power. If you do, Rouse the Ancient gains +7 attack and go again. So for 3, this allows you to attack for 7. You can pitch another 3, swing with Anthos. That's a really efficient turn of being able to dish out 13 points of damage when you're just trying to pressure through damage towards the end of the game. Most of the time when you see this card, you're pitching it for 3 resources. It defends for 2. It's not one of our best defending cards, but it is a card that pitches for 3. And then in the late game, when it comes back around, you've got a lot of these blues in here that you've pitched for resources like Chokeslam, Cranial Crush, Disable, Debilitate, Crush the Weak. All of these add up. You just need a couple of the big 8-point damage ones or smaller cards, and you can really just push that Rouse the Ancient for 7 damage and go again. I played 3 blue Pummel. Really, this is more here for the pitch and maybe some cheeky last-minute damage. I've thought about playing more defense reactions, but a lot of times people are blocking, especially when they see 2 or 3 red Pummels already spent. They don't respect the blue Pummel, and they will block just enough to not get crushed, and this is a way to get a crushed effect. Plus, causing them to discard a card is phenomenal. Showtime. Now this is the card that I'm running those mage boots for because this does not have go again, but this is a phenomenal setup card. This is one of the best cards you can play on turn 1. It costs 3. It's Bravo specialization. When it enters the arena, search your deck for a Guardian attack action card, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. At the beginning of your next action phase, destroy Showtime, then draw a card. So it really kind of replaces itself you've gone and searched out for a big attack, more than likely put it in your arsenal. So you probably went and got like a Spinal Crush or a, let's see, Spinal Crush or a Crippling Crush, forgot the name, and put it in your arsenal. You get to draw 4 cards. If you don't have to defend, or if you can block with your equipment, you're able to get 5 cards in your hand, and you're able to do some really insane things with that. Stamp Authority is just a great card. Stamp Authority is another aura that sticks around for a turn. When it enters the battlefield, if you have 2 or more cards in your pitch area with 3 or greater cost, you get +1 intellect, another way to get more cards in your hand. When Stamp of Authority is in the field, attack action cards do not trigger when they hit. So this stops cards that have on-hit effects. There's some pretty nasty ones out there, some common ones like Command and Conquer. This stops them from popping your card in your arsenal. Against Prism, it stops it from going to Soul. A whole bunch of different things. A lot of decks have on-hit effects, and Stamp Authority prevents that. Another fun of, I'm only playing 2 of, Towering Titan. This is an aura if you want to set up a really early turn for some really massive damage. It costs 9, it pitches for 3, it blocks for 3. It normally pitches for 3 and it blocks for 3. That's what you're doing with this card most of the time. But if you have 3 other blues in your opening hand and this, pitch all 3, slam it down, and basically at the beginning of your next action phase, destroy Towering Titan. The next Guardian attack action card you play this turn gets +8. So all those crush effect cards, +8, there's no way they're not taking the crush damage from it. So it's a great way to push through some damage. It's also great at the end of the game to push through damage where they just cannot block enough of the damage coming through. So it's really hard to pull off. I've done it once, but it feels great. Normally it's a blue pitch with 3 defense. A new card that I've started playing with is Stonewall Confidence Blue. This costs 2, it's an aura, it has Go Again. Cards you control with 3 or greater gain +2 while defending. So again, giving it +2 and you're defending with something like a Cranial Crush, it takes it from a 3 defense to a 5 defense. A lot of breakpoints are, trying to hit that 4, trying to hit that 7, something requiring an additional card to block with. So this can really help in those situations. And then at the beginning of your next action phase, destroy it. So you play it for 2. Normally you make a Seismic token, maybe you swing Anthos, and then you can sit back and comfortably block some pressure from your opponent next turn with fewer cards. I also played 3 Blessing of Deliverance, just like the red Blessing, except you only reveal 1 card. You can only really gain 1 life off of this, but it does replace itself. Normally it is a 3 block. It does have blue pitch for 3. So again, lots of blue pitch again, a lot of getting through your deck. And the last card in the main deck is Unmovable Blue. This is just a phenomenal defense reaction. You play it from Arsenal, it'll block 6, it costs 3. Strongly recommend this card for Bravo players. And the nice thing is that it doesn't jam up. I was trying to play the red version of this, but it costs 3, so if you have 2 of these in your hand, you can pitch 1 to pay for another one. If you have 2 red unmovables in your hand, you can't do that. You just have 2 dead cards in your hand that you can't use. So not a fan of the reds, love the blues. All right, so that takes care of the main deck. This is 60 cards. This is what I'm starting every matchup with. Now I have certain cards that I have selected that I'm testing some of these, and some of these I've already tested and found to work. So against Prism, I like to be able to pop their auras because they're going into an aura plan. So you need things with Go Again and cheap attacks. So I bring in Zealous Belting. This is a 2 for 5. If I have a card in the graveyard with a greater attack power than this, it gains Go Again. Most of my cards are going to be greater than 5. 6 is kind of the low end. I think I have 1 attack action that is 5, but most everything else is going to give me 6 or more, so this is going to have go again off the pitch, and I'm able to attack again. So it's a nice way to pop an aura. That's something you've got to look for. I'm running 2 time snap potions. Again, this is for Prism. This is for the Arc Sentinel, Arc Light Sentinel. Basically, it's a blue pitch. It destroyed time snap. I gained 2 action points. I haven't tried this one. This is a new one. This is something a friend of mine recommended. I'm going to give this a try this Friday while I'm playtesting with a friend of mine. For more defense reactions, I run 4 Fate Foreseen. This is another phenomenal 4 block for 0, opt 1. Allows me to look at the top card of my deck, decide if I want to draw it or put it on the bottom. But this is great for matchups where you need more defense reactions to kind of block out some damage. I also run 3 snag, blue snag, or snag because it's only in blue, from Crucible. This is a 0 cost, and it basically says attack action cards can't gain attack from their owner's effect or the effects of attack reaction cards this turn. This is specifically in here for Chain, because his real big nasty combo is to hit you with a Riftbind after Seed, Shadow Puppetry, kind of just going off, and then Riftbind you, and you can play this and say, no thank you. And the last card is another experimental card, which is Mangle. It was in the main, but I really felt like I had too many reds. This is when I'm trying to race somebody, when I want more bigger hits. This crush effect isn't really relevant except against maybe Dorinthia, being able to destroy target equipment they control with a -1 counter on it. So anybody that's blocking, which Dorinthia does a lot with her equipment, this card with the crush effect goes off, you're able to really kind of just blow it up and stop them from blocking with it. But normally when they see this, they're gonna block with the one that has damage on it if they can. So that's it. That's what I have so far. If you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, please feel free to leave it in the comment. And until next time, remember, when it comes to protecting, storing, or displaying your hobbies or collectibles, BCW has you covered.